it's easy to think like, oh, if you're good friends, you're going to work together. And that's not necessarily the only prerequisite to being a good directing duo. You have to be really, really into the whole collaboration bit and being able to compromise in a good way and to let go of your ideas and work together in that way. And it's not an easy thing.
Hey Hatchings, welcome to the Motion Hatch podcast. I'm your host, Hayley Akins. Now today on the show we have Danny and Iria from Wednesday Studio. They're an excellent studio based in London. They've worked with some clients like Microsoft, Airbnb and the Huffington Post. We talked about how they get their clients and also how they hire freelancers and what it's like working as a directing duo together. We also covered a little bit about the pros and cons of having representation versus going it alone. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hey, Danny, Iria, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
So I wanted to start by asking how you met each other.
So we met when we were studying at the NFTS, the National Film and Television School. When was that? Like in 2009?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were both doing the same course. I was a year above Iria, and we were studying directing animation. And Iria helped me out a little bit when I was doing my graduation film. And then when I finished and she was doing her graduation film, I returned the favor. After that, we ended up working in the same job. It was kind of like a long-term freelance job that it was for like a children's app, a project that it wasn't really what like our thing that we wanted to do, but like straight out of uni, it was actually quite useful because we actually learned how to use After Effects and everything and do character animation there. But creatively, it wasn't what we were after. So I think being there together kind of, I know we bonded over the frustration of not being able to do what we wanted creatively. And that kind of spurred us on to join forces and then have a go at directing together. And that's when we came up with the concept of Wednesday.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's cool. So how did you come up with the name Wednesday?
We came up with lots of names, but every time we Googled it, there would be another animation studio somewhere in the world with that name. So on a Wednesday, we were like, Wednesday, yeah, I love it.
Done.
It was out of desperation, I think.
Yeah, I think we'd exhausted all of these options. And I mean, we were trying to come up with a name for like several weeks. And we're like, you know what? Okay, today, what day is it? Wednesday. You know what? That sounds perfect. Let's do that.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's really funny because I think people do that. They're just like, oh, I can't be bothered to think about it anymore. That will do. And as long as there's not like another animation studio, right, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, like we're quite happy with our name. We like it a lot. But whenever people ask us, we're like, oh, God, yeah, there's no deep hidden meaning behind it. It literally was a Wednesday that day. So
we started finding reasons after.
Yeah.
Like it's in the middle, it's compromise.
Yeah.
All these things.
Oh, yeah, that's
But
cool.
the truth is that it was just on a Wednesday.
Well, do you think that it's important if you want to be an animation director to kind of do a master's or something in animation direction, or do you think that you could kind of get into it other ways? What's your experience of that?
I don't think you need a master's to become an animation director. I think you can become an animation director in plenty of different ways. And I guess that I chose to do the master's because my background was in animation. So I learned a lot, not only how to animate, but also how to direct and how things work behind the scenes. For me, it was really helpful, but you don't really need it. That's what I think.
Yeah, I second what Iria said. I think there's lots of different ways that you can become an animation director. I mean, there's people that are self-taught. There's people that just go do their BA and they wander into it. Other people like start different types of careers and roles in the animation industry and wander into directing. I personally felt like I needed a master's because when I finished my BA, I still felt a bit lost. I didn't feel like my work was strong enough. And I really benefited from having that extra. I think it was like a little bit over 2 years, those extra 2 and a bit years to kind of really focus and work out what direction I wanted to take my work in, and I guess my style and all of that. Because during my BA, it was an illustration animation BA, and I had come onto it as an illustrator, thinking that that's what I was going to do. And I sort of wandered into the animation side of it, and I kind of wandered into it a little bit too late, and I wasn't able to find my focus quickly enough. So for me, the master's was really helpful. I think it's just quite a personal choice, really. I mean, if you feel like you need more study before you launch into it or not.
Yeah, I suppose it gives you the time to focus on sort of personal projects, and also maybe gives you more resources that you can work with.
Yeah. I mean, in our course, there were actually quite a few students that had been in the industry already and then decided they wanted to take some time to focus on the directing side of animation in particular, and produce their film with that guidance.
Yeah.
So
it's also a bit of a luxury situation to be there, investing 1 year to make one project with the help of the tutors and the feedback of your fellow students. I don't know, it's a great thing to do. So yeah. I recommend it to do it only because it's it's luxury, as I said.
Yeah.
But it's not necessary.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really good, like you say, to have that time out to kind of do things. And if you're working full time or something, maybe you couldn't concentrate on a film as easily.
Yeah, sometimes like it could be a good way to kind of force your focus in a way onto doing this personal project.
Yeah. So how long have you been working together now?
So we started working together around 2013, and this was after we met in that company. And during that time, we felt motivated to help each other to find some other things. So Dani got a job, and she hired me. I mean, she got a directing opportunity, and she hired me to help her as her animator. And then it was me who got that opportunity, and I hired her. And then after that, we realized it was fun working together. So we decided that for the next one, we will have a go at directing together. And that's how we started. It all started from that job that we didn't like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it motivated us.
Yeah.
And then the first directing job that we did together, it was for a charity. And yeah, it was quite fun. It was it was a lot of us trying to work out what our process would be, how, because there's many different ways of directing with other people. Some people really like to split roles, like somebody's in charge of character design or design in general, and the other was in charge of, I don't know, storyboarding or whatever. But we were really keen to do everything together. So it was, trying to work out exactly how we would do that, how we would come to design decisions together and story decisions. And it was quite fun to work out. And I think now that we've done lots of projects together, we have like a good streamlined process. But that first one was a lot of arguing over discussing little details, that now we just kind of trust each other with, and we're like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So like, how do you divide the work up now? Is it the same as when you first started, or has it kind of evolved?
I'd say it's similar to how we first started. It's quite similar, but now it's more streamlined. So we're quicker at taking decisions together because now we've developed a dialogue, I guess, a design language between the two of us, so we can...
Yeah, I guess that after working together for this long, we kind of like had become, for most of the part of the process, one mind. We agree with each other's decisions most of the time, so there is not that much discussions or arguments or anything.
Yeah, I think we're also quicker to like let personal ideas go if it's not going down well with the other person. We're not so precious about it anymore. We're like, okay, that doesn't work. Okay, sure, you're not buying it next, and we try to come up with, we're just quicker with it now.
We also we have evolved together design-wise and the way we've been learning things together. So our process is more the same now than it was when we first started.
Yeah, it's merged. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. It's different when we work with other people. So that's when we start dividing, not roles amongst ourselves, but the way that we divide work obviously is different when you bring freelancers on.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're kind of working together as the directors and then directing the freelancers in their kind of different roles.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's the worst experience that you've had when working on a project, and how do you think that working together helped that situation?
We've had a project be cancelled. It was only a couple of days after it had started.
Oh, yeah.
And that was quite tough because I guess we didn't establish a contract before we started because we were just quite keen. It was something like we had to get going, and we just started, and there was a miscommunication there. And when they decided to cancel the project, we had blocked out all this time for it, and suddenly we weren't going to get paid for all of that. So that was a big lesson learned of being clear, having contracts in place, never start work without a contract.
It's a difficult one because in commercial work, deadlines are so tight, everything needs to move so fast, but contracts always take so long that you end up always starting before everything is sorted. And if something goes wrong and it gets cancelled, the one losing is you.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that was a tough lesson to learn, but it's something that we know from speaking to the people that a lot of people go through, that you just get quite keen and eager to get going and before ironing out all the details. And then you can be in a bit of a tricky situation afterwards. So it's a very important rule to live by, is always have a contract. I mean, not just for yourself, but the client as well. It's useful to protect both sides so they know what they're getting. You know what your expectations are, your deliverables. They know how many changes are allowed, for example, and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have in your contract something like, if you confirm the project and then it's cancelled, you pay us 50% of the project rate or something like that? What kind of thing is involved in that?
Yeah, I'd say cancellation fees are important, just so that you're covered for a certain amount, because if you're booking people to help you out, for example, that becomes a problem. So having a clause in there like that, what happens if it gets cancelled at this stage? What happens if it gets cancelled further down the line, etc. That things like that are good to have in a contract.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's so true. I mean, it's something that we haven't mentioned before on the podcast, but cancellation fees I think are really important, and it's really hard, I think, with the kind of freelancers, maybe not with you guys, but the whole penciling and confirming kind of thing, because I know a lot of people get penciled and then they just release you, so you can't really enforce a cancellation fee on that. It's only if you get a confirmation booking that you can maybe have that in your terms and conditions.
Yeah, but with a pencil, you can also challenge the pencil. I mean, you can also say that if they don't confirm you will have to take another job, and then that's fine. So I guess that pencils are quite difficult to deal with if you are a freelancer, but they have also their benefits, and is that it's not a full commitment on your side either if something else comes up.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in both sides of that because we've freelanced a lot ourselves.
Yeah.
And we've also had freelancers working with us. And it's a tricky one because we've been in situations where clients want to, assemble a team and start, in 2 days' time, and you have to have your team waiting. And you scramble to pencil people in, and then the client starts pushing back and pushing, the dates start shifting. And then, you have to then change the dates for the people that are penciled. And yeah, it's a bit difficult. I mean, that's why we wait until last minute to confirm people, because we don't want.
Yeah, we've been in that situation that as a studio where clients don't fully commit to their own schedules, and then we understand how difficult it is to actually confirm people.
Yeah. And we've been freelancers as well, where we've been confirmed as well, and projects have fallen through and things have changed unfortunately. It's a frustrating system, the whole pencil thing.
Yeah, I think it's good that you guys have experience on both sides, though, because obviously you're sympathetic to being a freelancer, but then you also know what you're dealing with your kind of clients.
And, that makes us conscious that we don't want to put freelancers in a rubbish position either, because we've been there, and we don't want to be those people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a hard one to balance, but I think it's good that we have been on both sides of the fence.
Have you ever lost a freelancer to another booking and you're like, damn, we should have confirmed them?
I think once or twice, but not like we don't regret not confirming them, because it would be worse if we confirm them and then we're like, oh, sorry, we don't. The project doesn't need people or whatever. That would make me feel worse. I mean, of course, yeah, you always want to work with.
We already felt quite bad on this project where we penciled a very nice group of freelancers, and the project kept changing dates, and we kept moving the dates of the pencil, and they were like, it was really frustrating for them too, because they were really keen in getting involved with this project. So yeah. It becomes very, very difficult for everyone, really. It's not only the student.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think it's just an interesting thing to talk about, really, because I think it's quite frustrating on all sides. And then maybe, also if you're a new freelancer, you probably, haven't really heard about it before. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, so now I'm pencil, but then I have to, if someone else wants to book me, then I have to ask the first studio, and, it can go quite crazy.
Yeah, when I first graduated, I wasn't aware of the whole penciling protocol either. I just thought at first, when it's like I'm penciled, I'm like, okay, that's it, I'm starting the job. I didn't really realize that it was like a interim stage, It's like, maybe you're starting the job.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the best animation you've ever worked on, and how did you get that job?
Ooh, we're looking at each other trying to think. What's the best one we've worked on?
Well, I guess for me, I will not say, I don't know if I will say the best, but my favorite projects were the School of Life and our TED. Probably not the best in terms of budget, but I find that more often the worse is the budget, the better is the end result, mainly because you have fully creative freedom, and we love to really do our best with these projects and do what we really want to be doing. So we end up always doing something that we love. But in terms of budget, it becomes a bit not the best.
Yeah, I mean, we're not saying that you should be taking on low-paid projects. It's just that these in particular, we chose to take on because we wanted to do something that had a lot of creative freedom. And these clients were willing to give us that, and that was quite nice to do. And I think that's why they've been our favorites.
Also, they give you really interesting scripts too.
Yeah.
That's something that it doesn't happen very often in commercials.
Yeah, it's not a commercial thing, so it's educational, and it's a different challenge as well, doing a storyboard for that sort of script, because it's not, I don't know, I guess it's not as clear cut. If you're talking about selling a product, it's like, oh, you show the person using the product, but this is like, it's talking about different theories on psychology, and that presents a different challenge creatively on how to visualize it, and that makes it extra interesting for us, I guess, on a personal level.
Yeah,
definitely. I did a School of Life animation. It was definitely interesting to work on, but I know what you mean. I think I was talking to Joey from School of Motion on the podcast about how you kind of work maybe on more the money jobs, and then maybe you take a couple of months off to do like a nice project that you want to do that probably pays you not a lot, if anything. And that's kind of how you can push yourself and your style onto the next kind of client job, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think having projects like that can be, I don't know, just creatively can be really beneficial. And it's also, something that actually leads on to client work afterwards. If it's something that you can invest in, it's quite a nice thing to be able to have the luxury of being able to do.
Yeah. So how do you get most of your clients? I think you guys have representation, right?
Yeah, we are represented in the States by Anchor Point and in Europe by Strange Beast. They are really helpful in finding work, but we also have our own clients, and we do approach people directly too. So it's a bit of everything, really.
Yeah, it's a combination. I guess you never really know when a client, what the source of the client will come from, because it can be, we've had a client approach us because they saw us at a talk. We've had people recommend us, or somebody saw something on the Motionographer website, or, Twitter, being present in social media. Just having an online presence has been quite helpful in that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important. Recommendations are probably the way that most people get work. Do you think if you wanted to be an animation director, your goal should be to try and find representation? Or again, do you think you can kind of do it on your own?
I'd say it definitely doesn't hurt to have representation, because it can give you access to bigger clients that maybe when you're starting out, you wouldn't be so visible to them.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's the only way to become a successful director.
No, I also think that nowadays it's quite popular to be freelance director, and agencies are starting to have their own in-house team and hiring directors. And so I don't really think it's really necessary. As Danny said, it doesn't hurt, but yeah, it has pros and cons. If you are represented, you cannot be freelance director for other companies. I don't know. I think both ways are samely helpful, I think.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong with it. You can definitely be your own director, or you can also be successful with representation. It's just, I imagine it's different sorts of clients that you might get when you're represented as opposed to a freelance director.
Yeah, so you can be represented, but then you guys can still go out and get your own clients as well. You don't have to kind of just have those people in the US are just getting you US clients, if that makes sense.
I think every studio has different
rules.
Yeah, different rules for how they work with their directors. So, I mean, we work with both of our reps, and we also do direct-to-client work.
Okay, yeah. So I guess it's like, look at your terms and conditions is the answer.
Yeah. Everybody has different ways of doing it.
Okay, cool. So do you have any advice in particular for people who would like to maybe be like directing duos or make a studio when they're starting out?
For directing duos, communication.
Yeah, it's the number one thing. I think it's easy to think that just because, like, oh, if you're good friends, you're going to work together. And that's not necessarily the only prerequisite to being a good directing duo. Because I've heard of a lot of directing duos that just don't work out. And it's because you have to be really, really into the whole collaboration bit and being able to compromise in a good way and to let go of your ideas and work together in that way. And it's not an easy thing because, you know, everybody has their own vision, their own ways of doing things, and it's not for everyone.
It's harder at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like for us, we were arguing over like small details, like the shape of fingertips on characters.
Yeah.
But with time, you get over that and it becomes better. I think learning how to communicate and how to compromise is really important.
Yeah, and it's a big level of trust as well, I think, because it's a two-person thing. You have to trust in each other's vision and ideas as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's harder than it kind of looks from the outside. And maybe now you guys have established a relationship, you've got faster as you work together, because there must have been like a lot of, like you say, nitpicking, like at the beginning, like, oh, I'm not sure about that little bit and things like that. But now you've kind of grown with your styles together, then it must be easier.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're faster now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you hire a lot of freelancers in sometimes. Like, how do you find those freelancers that you want to work with?
Well, because we've been freelancers ourselves, we made lots of friends and we usually contact people who we have worked with in the past. When they are not available, then we find recommendations, or we get lots of emails from people that want to work with us, so we can find them like that too.
Yeah, which is always really nice to get to hear when someone wants to work with you.
Yeah. And sometimes we just email people we like their work, people we follow in social media. So yeah, anyways, it's good, I think.
Yeah, and like in our last project as well, we actually, it was the first time we worked with a lot of freelancers that were in different countries.
Oh, yeah.
So that was quite an experience. We had somebody that was working for us in Barcelona, in Canada, in Tennessee, in
Brighton.
Where? In Brighton. Yeah. New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite an international group, and that was quite fun.
Yeah, at the beginning it was a bit scary because we'd never done it before, and time zones and not having worked with these guys before, we were a bit worried of not getting things as we needed.
The communication, right.
But in the end, they were really good. I mean, they are so good that it was really easy to work with them.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. It was really fun process.
Yeah, they were amazing.
Yeah, so that kind of like opened up like a new way of working for us as well, that means that even more people that we can work with, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, so did you guys use any tools that helped you with working remotely with people in particular? Or
Slack,
yeah.
Slack. That was really useful. Slack and Google Drive. So we were using Google Drive to share all the files, and Slack just to have a daily chat and see where people are at, and they can ask us questions.
Skype was the first meeting, so we can see our faces.
Yeah. So we would sit down and have a face-to-face chat about just to say hello, because we've never met these people before in the flesh, and it's just always nice just to talk a little bit about what we're doing, like, because chat, obviously you can communicate a lot through written chat, but verbally, and when people can kind of see what you're saying, it actually also helps a lot. So video calls were helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people now are doing things more remotely. Like we had episode 3, we had Margot's on. He just works all around the world for like big clients like the New York Times and things like that. So it was super like interesting to hear, that lots more people are going remote, and freelancers and even studios are starting to work like that a bit. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's quite exciting. I mean, obviously you do have the challenge of communication. You have to be clear.
Yeah.
And time zones also, like we couldn't hire one of the very amazing animators for the last day because our end of the day was his beginning of the day. So, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really handy to know that if no one near you is available, you have a whole world on the internet where to find help. So yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah, it's like it opened up a whole world of talent.
Yeah.
And you can also use the time zones to your advantage as well. So if somebody's end of day is before ours, they would finish and give us their whip, and then we would have a couple hours to write any feedback, and then they would wake up and have the feedback to get going without us having to be online as early. So it was quite good.
Yeah, that's handy. Like someone can work overnight, and then you can kind of review it and then give the feedback back to them. It's really, it's an interesting way of working. So have you learned anything else on your journey that you think might help the audience?
I would say to keep your momentum going, because it's very easy when you have a quiet period to get demoralized.
Yeah.
If you have nothing to do, and just always having just a personal project on the back burner that you can pick up whenever you have spare time. So you're always still working on that. Well, for me anyway, that having that routine, you start at a certain time, you finish at a certain time, and you're always working, even if it's not
for a client.
Yeah, for a client.
Working for yourself, working for finding work. I mean, finding work is a tough job. It takes time and effort. So that's also your job when you don't have a job.
Yeah, website, social media, putting out little gifs of your work, and all of that is just keep yourself busy, because the second you start, well, at least for me, if you're like, oh, well, I don't have anything today, I'm going to have a lie-in in my pajamas, and then it's 1 p.m. and, and it's a slippery slope to start feeling demoralized. So, yeah, because freelancing it's not steady. So keeping working creatively constantly is a huge advantage.
Yeah, definitely. And because you're working together, I guess it helps a bit because you can spur each other on and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, we have our working times. Even if there is no clients, we get there at 9:30 and we work until 6:30. We always find things that we can be doing. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if we don't have a client, we're allowed to, have a nice lunch.
Yeah.
But we try to still be quite strict with ourselves in that it's still a working day. And there's always things that we can be doing. Even if it's not, social media or bookkeeping or whatever, just a personal project, because producing a personal project is still going to help bring on work because you're showcasing something, a style or something that you wanted to try out, or just to emphasize the type of work that you want to be doing. And the more of that type of work that you put on your portfolio, that's what you're going to attract.
Yeah, I think that's so true. Like, don't put anything out there that you don't want to do because people will ask you to do that kind of work.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So if the audience wants to contact you or find your work, where should they go?
To our website, www.wearewednesday.com.
Cool.
And our email is hello@wearewednesday.com.
Great. Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. It was really great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much to Dani and Iria for coming on the show. Just to let you know, we're going to be doing the podcast from now on bi-weekly. So the next podcast episode will be out on December the 19th, and that's going to be a Christmas special. So watch out for that one. We've got some good stuff lined up in there. If you're enjoying this podcast, please go over to iTunes and give us a rating and review. That just really helps get the podcast out there. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who's been listening so far. And if you have any topic suggestions or any guests that you would like me to interview, please email me at hello@motionhatch.com. Thanks so much for listening. Take care.